Taking a deeper look at something a lot of people have been feeling while at work. The last time you were on the job, did you feel focused, energized, like what you were doing actually mattered?
Or did it feel more like you were just trying to get through the day? If it's the second one, guess what? You're not alone.
Nope.
A new global workplace report from Gallup shows this is happening across the country and around the world. So we dug into that report to break down the three biggest things shaping how work feels right now and why.
So let's start with thing one here. People are showing up, but they're disconnected. Global engagement fell dramatically. Gallup defines engagement as your psychological connection to your work, your team, and your employer. And right now, that connection is slipping. In the U.S., only 20% of workers say they feel engaged while on the job. That's the lowest level since the pandemic. And that's saying something. When people feel disconnected from their work, it starts to affect things like motivation, confidence, and even your sense of purpose day to day.
I think we expect too much of ourselves often and don't engage in enough self-compassion. So the more we can recognize even like a workload throughout the day, like that was a long day and I should engage in some restful activity now, that could be helpful. Or we want to just push through and carry the burden for all, but if we can take care of ourselves, we'll do a better job in everything else.
And that disconnect builds over time, not always enough to make someone quit, but enough to change how they show up.
I'll take that feeling and look at the people in charge. Thing two, well, that comes down to management.
81% of why people leave or stop performing is because of their direct supervisor or one level up.
Manager engagement dropped to about 22% globally. That is one of the sharpest declines in the report. Because your manager shapes your day, your workload, your expectations, your support system. But right now, many managers are being stretched thinner than ever. They are taking on larger teams and more responsibilities, often without added support. So in a lot of workplaces, the role has shifted. Managers aren't just leading anymore, they are managing overload. Well, that makes it harder to check in, coach, or actually connect with employees, which is what drives engagement in the first place. So while managers feel stressed, that often falls on the team.
I have a ton of clients who come in and they're not depressed or anxious, but they do have terrible dread and anxiety at work because of a personality disordered colleague or a personality disordered boss.
That connection between leadership and how you feel at work is one of the clearest takeaways in this report. And that brings us to thing number three here. Let's take a look at this. Gallup's report shows some positivity in the U.S. 51% of workers, well, they say they're thriving. But at the same time, about 50% say they are dealing with daily stress. And a lot of it comes from factors outside of work. So when you're dealing with a lot and work isn't always a cakewalk, well, that stress can boil on over. And in many cases, people say they don't feel supported. And that's where employees and leadership have to come to a place of understanding.
Sometimes I think that's why we can get burnt out, because those boundaries are so loose. So I think one, understanding your boundaries is important. Prioritizing your boundaries and verbalizing your boundaries to people who may violate those boundaries, right? And maybe that's an employer, maybe that's somebody that's in a relationship who may not prioritize your time or your need for your own self-care.
And then there's another layer to the stress here. It's the uncertainty. Only 47% of workers in the U.S. say now is a good time to find a job. So even if you're not happy with where you are, you may not feel confident enough to leave. That creates a kind of pressure that just sits with you. Not stuck, but not moving forward either.
A lot of workers feel very hesitant to leave a job in order to try to find something better in the market right now. And unfortunately, that is creating a situation where many workers feel stuck in their careers right now.
So when you put all of this together, a clearer picture really starts to form. People are still working, still showing up, still getting things done.
Yeah, but many feel less connected, more pressure, and more uncertainty than they did just a few years ago. So at work, feels, like it's heavier right now, harder to stay motivated or just off. There's a reason, of course, for that.
Yeah, and you are certainly not the only one feeling it.